Hi guys, welcome back to another edition of Relatable. I am your host, Stephanie Michelle. Today we are going to be talking about one of my favorite topics, the topic of influence and how it affects us. And as normal, my normal process for the show is I lie in bed in the morning before the show and try to decide what am I going to talk about or what am I going to share in this opening monologue. And so this morning, I'm like, what's the most authentic and relatable thing that I can share this morning about influence? And I was struggling. And I went through 10 or 12 different ideas trying to figure out what's the right thing to share. And there was this one thing that was pulling all my attention. And I kept going, nope, not that. Can't be that. Can't be that. That can't be the thing that I'm going to share. Well, guess what, guys? It's the thing that I'm going to share. I'm going to talk about something that we're not supposed to be talking about. And women, you're going to feel me on this so much. So the number one thing that I'm influenced right now is something that Mother Nature is doing to my body in this moment right now. It is my period. Everything, literally everything that I'm going to do in the next few days is going to be influenced by how I'm feeling, which is not great. My body is under siege. It's very uncomfortable. And just to give you an idea of how uncomfortable it is, and guys, I'm sorry if you're like grossed out by what I'm about to share, because this is just real. And the idea of not being able to talk about it is ridiculously unauthentic. So here's the deal. So just this morning, this amount of fluid has come out of me. This amount. This is 15 grams times about 6. If you figure out what that times 6 is, girls, you know what that is. That's 6 trips to changing something. That's what happened. And by the end of this experience, it's going to be something like this. So just think, this, that. Yeah, lovely. Not supposed to talk about it. That's what's going on right now. It's just so exciting. But, we're not supposed to talk about it. And all of these things like, hey, this is going on, but I'm still taking meetings. I'm still doing the show. I'm still, acting normal. No, there's not normal things going on. And I'm supposed to pretend like it's not happening and then do it all over again next month. No, I don't think so. This is ridiculous. So what I propose, instead of not talking about this, my face is heating up. I'm like, maybe this wasn't a good idea. No, it's fine. This is real. Instead of not talking about it, this is what I propose, is we should do something different, ladies, to just let people know that this is going on. So I chose today to wear this little red sash around my waist, just to say, yep, this is happening right now. And I also encourage, if you try this, if you do this, to actually let people know, like, let's start walking up to women and say, hey, thank you for your service this month. Because it truly is a service to be having all of these things happening to your body and you're just acting normal. It's ridiculous. And before I get the hate mail about, wow, that's really disrespectful to say thank you for your service, that's disrespectful to veterans, I'm going to tell you, before you send me that hate mail, to get over yourself. Because I think the real problem that we're facing right now in the world is this constant speedy judgment without acknowledgement to circumstances and context. What no one seems to understand is that brave steps that people take to speak out and be authentic is often a result of fast pressure to make everything black and white and right and wrong, instead of slowing down and embracing the complexity of the human race. Feeding into the cycle of fast attacks and criticism hurts everyone. It can influence anyone to consider, if I can influence anyone to consider one thing, it's just stop debating everything and attempt some understanding. So that's what I'm thinking about in terms of influence. And my influence rant would not be complete without a without a shout out to Michelle Wolf, who has a HBO stand-up special on right now, and she brilliantly and hilariously covers the topic of the period. I love it. I probably wouldn't have shared this today without watching that, so this is all about influence. This is what's on my mind, and I definitely am influenced by the people and the things that I see, and we're going to talk about that and challenge you to see how you're influenced with things too. One last thing before we meet our guests, you may notice that the show looks different right now. So what you're seeing is what B's seeing through the lens of the camera. So you're seeing our live momentum of learning and evolving the show. So let us know what you think. Like, how's it looking? Like, you're going to see it grow and change over the course of the next couple of months. And you know, we are celebrating our own momentum by allowing you to see it live, but we need the encouragement too. So let us know what you're seeing and talk to us about it. Now it's time to meet our guest. And she's probably like, wow, could I have picked a more awkward show to be on? She started talking about her period, but it's all good. This is Andi Lichtenfeld. She is the owner of Artful Influence, a brand consulting firm that specializes in developing marketing for mission-driven organizations. She collaborates with individuals, startups, and nonprofit organizations to help them reconnect with foundational principles and builds their brands and businesses with integrity through creative use of media, brand experience, and influential relationships. Her experience ranged from nonprofits, startups, and national brands, including Taco Bell, Volkswagen, Target, Sprint, and Nissan, to name a few. She also happens to be a downtowner, so she lives downtown with me, and we have a great kind of influence and neighborhood story to share about how we even met. Like, my neighbor just said, hey, I think that, you know, you'd be interested in her and you guys should meet, and this is us meeting. So it's all about influence today. Welcome.
Thank you.
How'd you feel about that monologue?
I loved it. I think it's great. I mean, I think one of the things we are facing as women, we don't talk about a lot of things. Yeah. There's a lot of taboo, and, you know, there's no shame in it. Yeah. It's our bodies. Yeah. We're all going through it. Everybody poops, you know. That's the...
You know what? We clip out the show. That's going to be the clip of the day. Everybody poops. Get over it.
Hey, I'm full of them. Just you wait. Yeah. No, I mean, I think it's great. I think it's brave. I feel how hard it is to share that information about yourself. And I was telling you earlier, I'll share a little bit. I have an IUD. I don't get a period anymore. Yeah. And it's kind of nice to be brought back to that space.
Yeah. You know, and we were talking, B and I were talking, B's on the other side of the camera earlier, about, you know, I can't prove this, but I am talking to women about more and more about our cycles. And it seems like they're getting worse and heavier, and I don't know, some of it's because of age, but but I kind of have a theory that we're experiencing so much trauma in the news and the media that there's more to release, and this is our body naturally going, okay, you got to just let that stuff go.
There is certainly something going on, especially with female energy right now. It seems like everything is starting to sync up in such a interesting way, and maybe that's just LA, maybe that's just here, but maybe it's just downtown, maybe it's just the weird downtown vibes, but it really does feel like something systemically is happening, and that does seem...
Something.
Yeah, something.
Something's in the air.
Something's
in the body, as we may speak.
Or out of the body.
Or out of the body.
Whatever.
Yeah, it's there.
It's there.
It's there. It's everywhere. I could go on. Have fun with
but I think it's a great topic to talk about, and I love the idea of wearing red to be like, hey ladies, Scarlet.
Yeah.
Whole Scarlet happening over here.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you for your service.
I actually told a neighbor that today because we were walking our dogs at the same time, and she's like, and just the look on her face, and I knew what was coming. She's like, ugh, my period. And I was like, girl, you don't even know who you're talking to right now.
It's awful.
It's awful.
It's awful. It really, I don't miss it. I'm like, I put myself into early menopause or something. Yeah. I don't know. It's great. I like it. Yeah. Recommend it to anybody who's not freaked out by changing your natural rhythms.
Yeah, exactly. All right, well, we're right into this. Now, normally I ask everyone that sits in the chair before we get into our topic, like, is there anything else that you want to share, just to kind of, that's pulling your attention, you know, you want to get off your chest before we talk about influence?
I think the one thing that kind of grounds me in the conversation about influence is how personal of an experience it is, how personal influence is, and how different, how as social creatures, the process is somewhat similar across everybody, but what influences us, what resonates with us is such an individual choice It's a choice to decide and be mindful about what you're allowing to influence your own behavior, and how important it is to connect with your own values and your own principles before you can even, and how essential that is, and important that is as we're having this conversation. I mean, it starts with you.
Yeah.
It starts with you.
I agree that it's a choice. I don't agree that most people understand that it's a choice.
I agree with that as well.
And not to their default at all. I think that we live in such a world that everything is competing for our attention, that it's easy to give it away and not consider yourself being influenced by it until it might be too late, or until you are dealing with like the trauma of like, oh, you know what, maybe that wasn't right for me. I mean, case in point, you know, and I say it all the time on here, social media. It's like, you know, how long you can spend swiping, you know, scrolling or whatever, and then you find yourself fatigued or upset because you've been exposed to something that's not really serving you, and yet you still follow them. Like maybe it's an influencer, you know, somebody that like you think that you really like, but every time you look at their posts, it's like, you're disgusted with yourself. You're judging yourself. So
if I'm a big believer, the life-changing magic of tidying up, apply that to everything. If it doesn't spark joy, or if for the most part it's not, clear it out. Make room for new things. You only have so much capacity. And once you connect with that thing, those things, those people, those items, those whatever that provide joy for you, it emanates out. And but it has to start with you, and you have to be connected to your truth, and you have to be connected to your value, and self-care is such a big part of that. I'm sure it's
absolutely. And so, you know, so all of this, so we've already talked about, it's a choice. What you allow yourself to be influenced by is a choice. And you know, having some awareness, having the ability to kind of tidy that up, having the ability to go in and go, is this the right type of influence for me? Is it aligned to my values and beliefs? Is essential to your well-being and your happiness. You know?
I agree. No, sorry. I just, there's also the element of recognizing influence and choosing whether or not to be influenced by it.
Totally.
And that's because you're never going to be able to block everything out. You'll never be able, that's just, you can't, you'll end up ISO.
Yeah. ISO's the fish.
ISO's the fish.
ISO is sometimes on the set, but we don't always put him on the set. Because some of us have long legs and want to, like, you know, we don't want to kick him off. But yeah, ISO's the fish, guys. If you haven't seen him in a while, he's still here.
But it really is, you, and I've experienced this personally, where I was struggling so much with trying to connect with who I am and what my values were, and I couldn't delineate between what was mine and what was others, what belonged to me and what belonged to other people. And it took a year of deep, intense work on myself that was scary and hard and weird. But that is so fundamental, because now I can go out and move through the world. And if something doesn't align with you, you can still hear it, check it as a thing that you can take into consideration, but you don't have to be so impacted by it.
While you were talking, what came up for me is like a clothing analogy. It's like you can have awareness, but you don't have to put the coat on.
Exactly.
Like you can notice it.
Exactly.
Well, it's not for me, it's not my style, or maybe it is, you know, but you get to choose if you're gonna wear it or not.
I love that analogy. And I love fashion, because I mean, there's a reason why fashion is so influential. It's armor, it's an expression of who you are, and it's one of those things where I can appreciate and love somebody's style, but I don't have to wear what they wear.
Right.
I can be inspired by it. I can incorporate some ideas. My sister has a thing where she's like, I want to be like bad girl Rihanna, but French. Like, that's her vibe right now.
Bad girl Rihanna, but French.
But French, that's her vibe right now. And I'm like, I don't know what that means, but it's yours, and that's great. And that's what makes somebody truly influential as well, is having that awareness of themselves and not compromising.
Totally. And what we have to think about or remember is, so no matter what, the power of influence is happening at all times. It's that there are things right now, there are people sitting in rooms right now in a marketing, in our world, and the marketing department's going, how can we get a certain demographic of people to buy this product or believe this thing? The politicians sit in a room and go, how can we get them to believe into this cause or this policy? So influence is happening all the time,
and
everywhere.
It's so interesting too, and I know you can appreciate this because of your public shared experiences work, but how much the space itself influences behavior and how much perspective, and even, if I were sitting over there, this would be a different experience of the room if we switched places. It's such an interesting thing, and you think about power dynamics at a table and the leaning in and the, it's just interesting. And to be aware of it, to clock it, to recognize it, and then learn how to use it positively and to advance your purpose, I think is a powerful, powerful tool. It can be dangerous. Yeah. But it's beautiful.
Yeah, totally. You'll laugh a little bit. So influence and context, I talk a lot about. I mean, I think we're, again, living in a world where context is getting taken out of everything and everybody thinks that they know, we're living in our bubbles and we're commenting on things that you have no idea about the circumstances or the situations or the context. And yes, every little thing matters. So I told you earlier we are doing an event here tonight, and it's a private group of women. And yesterday, Beatrice, who's behind the camera, spent some time kind of looking at things outside of this environment that might create a certain energy once people come in the room. So we're in downtown Los Angeles. It gets kind of gritty sometimes down here. We do have an alley where there's a trash can. It's close to the front door, and sometimes we have swarmy bugs. And I'm like, you know what? I want to get rid of the swarmy bugs so my women don't have to walk through that tomorrow and feel something, be affected by that, so we don't have to work on getting that energy out of the room. That's just one of about 6 things that we did yesterday. Because yes, everything makes a difference. I mean, how I put, this area will end up being a little pillowed, circle. How I place the pillows, the smells in the room.
Isn't that the best thing about a loft? Yeah. You're like, ooh, I can do anything here. I love that I have a space similar to this. My apartment is
I live in a loft too,
And you're just like, I just change things around. I just move stuff out of the way, and you can make different use of the space, and recognizing how much that can impact the way you feel and what you're capable of doing, and it's fascinating.
Yeah, well, you said it earlier, this like the art of tidying up. So I also live in a loft. I don't like clutter, and if I allow clutter to happen, I'm impacted in a negative way. It influences, how I feel about myself. Like, how dare I let so much clutter pull up? Like, it's a thing that I have to clean up. Now, even to be creative, I know some artists like just crazy busy, stuff around them. I don't. I have a white desk. That thing has to be clean for me to be able to get into a creative space. So. It goes back to where we started from the beginning of the show. It's like you get to choose what influences you. You can also look at influence as just energy. You get to choose if things are going to take energy from you or give you energy.
And I think that is such a beautiful thing to say, because I really do feel when it comes down to everything, it is energy, right? Yeah. It is all energy. And what I have, through my experience with marketing and events and all these things, figuring out how to channel that energy effectively with purpose, I feel so much, I love it. I love it. That is the thing that has made me feel like I can live my life. I can live my best life, and it's a gift, and it's a gift I want to share with all the good people of the world and hide from all the bad ones.
It's your special power.
But it is, and it's one that it's very human, and it just is a practice like any other practice, and it takes patience and time, but it's fascinating and beautiful and wonderful, and it makes the universe your universe, which, it's cool.
I think well, what's coming up for me when you're sharing this, I mean, we work in the same way. I mean, we do appreciate energy and wanting to provide it for people and create great experiences. But it also gives me a sense of peace because things are crazy. You know, this is a crazy world. I think every generation kind of looks at what's going on. I just watched a documentary about the Kennedys, and like there was so many similarities in like the politics of that time and what they were going through to now, and and how they were talking about that administration, and it's just interesting. So yeah, everybody thinks their generation or their time is like, oh, it's so much harder. Is it or not? I think we're dealing with more. I think the rate of the things that we're dealing with is what's different than past generations.
I agree with that completely.
Yes.
I think on the flip side of that coin, I have found that I find the media landscape that we're living in and social media, I don't do a lot on social media.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. I've developed this love of Instagram. I love it. I love it. I think it's fascinating and interesting. I think it's visual and compelling. And if you go down the right rabbit holes and you're choiceful about who you choose to follow and engage with, and when you choose to use it, it becomes a tool as opposed to something that runs you. Yeah. And I enjoy it. I think it's a democratization of media that is very empowering for me. I mean, I come from working on these big brands and these big businesses, but we're at this point in time where individuals and organizations and mission-driven businesses have the opportunity to have as big of a platform as any of the bigwigs, and it's about making things and making messages and products and services that resonate. Yeah. And connecting the dots and being mindful about connecting with people and really realizing that, what is human, it's survival of the fittest. The things that are the strongest are going to survive this period of time. And I feel like I've gone on a weird tangent rant, but I do really appreciate this media landscape that we're living in, and I look at this as such an opportunity. It's like there's this earthquake that's happened where, the stuff is bubbling up to the surface. It's the mountainscape is rejiggering. It's becoming so different, and then you have people who are like, but my house, and it's like, that's what you have insurance for. I mean, that's an insensitive comment, but but it's like, that's, shit happens, and it's going to be okay, and it's going to happen, and you can't control it, and how do you work with it?
I think what makes it okay, though, is this conversation, is like having awareness to really what these tools are capable of, and like looking at the good and the bad, and then your own role in it. I talk about this, like, you've got to look at, like, pay attention to how you're interacting with it and how you're using it. I think where social media becomes really damaging, and this is where I look to my fellow marketers and go, I'm so disgusted by you, you're so manipulative, is when it plays into someone's fear of missing out. Like, fear of missing out should be something that we're seeing drug commercials for. Like, it is so horrific to some people, of like just constantly chasing something and like addicted and swiping, and like there is no way anybody can convince me that's good for your health to be constantly, what's next? Like, I gotta I gotta follow every single thing and not screen it and go, you know what? I only need this much in. Now, I want to be clear and say, like, I'm not advocating for you to live in a bubble. That's a part of the problem too. I'm saying, like, be cautious of what you're allowing in, but be curious, in a very, acknowledge your curiosity and play with that, leave some time for that, but don't totally allow that to take over too. Like, it's a balance. I mean, this is not, I don't know if I even said it because I was just so scared about talking about my period in my monologue, but like this idea of quick, fast judgments about what's good and like everything's super binary, you know, black, white, good, bad. This is what's really hurting us. Like, but if you peel back and go, okay, values and beliefs, what do I really believe in? Okay, let me pay attention to that stuff. And if I'm, you know, meet somebody and they're talking about something else, I'll be curious about that. I want to know. Like, I don't want to hide in my little bubble that's, you know, that I'm wearing that beautiful protective coat. Like, I want to be able to like feel my humanity and be compassionate. Like, I don't know, you know, what the real...
My favorite thing to do is just cut to the heart of it.
Yeah.
Like, and I think comedians do this really well. Yeah. It's do something that breaks people down. Yeah. Do something that catches them off guard, and you catch a glimpse at their humanity and who they are, and celebrate it. Yeah. When you see the humanity in somebody, allow for it and make space for it, because isn't that what you want from somebody else? Yeah, I mean, there's something that we can disagree and we can bring up things that are controversial when we decide to just continue to debate it without having some understanding or allowing new information, new context, and that's where it gets to become a problem. And you're allowed to agree to disagree. Totally. You're allowed to agree to disagree, but I mean, the echo chamber effect that we've experienced is very real, and it's very natural for people to want to be exposed to ideas and philosophies and policies that they agree with. Totally. It's not fun to disagree. It's not fun to debate. It's not fun to argue unless you decide it's fun to debate. It's fun to disagree. It's fun to argue, and there's so much beauty in that. There's so much. When it's your journey, this is your journey. All you have is your time. All you have is your time on this planet. We don't know anything else. Anything beyond that is like, I know that I'm here in the present moment, and this is what I have. This is the body that I've been given. What am I going to do with this? And I want to use it to explore. I want to use it to challenge my capacity to further myself, and I encourage and I celebrate anybody who does the same. Yeah. And those are the kinds of people who make change. Those are the kinds of people who make impact. 100% agree. Let's get back to influence again, and give, so just in case this is a new topic for people tuning in, or like, I've never really thought about influence, or who my influencers are, where am I most influenced by? Is it a source of media? Is it a show, or whatever? Let's take three kind of categories and break this down and maybe give an example. So we've got media, we've got entertainment, and personal influence, right? Those are probably the top three ways that we can be influenced by. You want to start with media? Yeah. I mean, what a juicy topic. I know. Media, it's overwhelming. It's overwhelming to think about. It's overwhelming to talk about the impact that media has, especially now. The influence of media, it's what we're exposed to. Yeah. It is, and we talked about, media is space. Media is messages. It's these things that you're experiencing. It's these, like a billboard that you drive by every day. What makes it onto your TV screen? Yeah. What makes it onto your sponsored posts on Instagram? Yeah. What makes it there? It matters, and the media is so much the message. Yeah. And again, people like things that they're comfortable with. They like things that they're accustomed to. I mean, you naturally gravitate to not wanting to be shocked all the time. Yeah. So with media influence, I think the thing that's so fascinating is the messages that we're shown, the types of people that we're shown, the types of products that we're shown, the types of services we're shown. We have a sense of, this is how it is, this is how it's supposed to be, this is the only way for it to be. Yeah. And I am to embody this. social media, you're like, oh, it's a highlight reel.
Well,
sorry.
Yeah,
please,
I mean,
jump
it's
in.
more, well, I want to back up a little bit. So I said media, what did I say? Media, entertainment, relationships.
Yeah.
It's actually, it's how you started talking about it, corrected really what I think it really is. So it's media, news and entertainment.
Yeah.
Then it's consumerism, which is, advertising. But when you were talking about it, I realized part of the issue or the challenge, whatever I want to say, everything's a problem, is there's a fine line between those two buckets. Like entertainment companies now own our media, our news sources. Our advertising companies are, using media. Yeah, right, big one. Using media and entertainment to get in messages about products. And what's more deceptive about all of it is, in this age of digital media and you thinking that you're using this cool tool called Facebook for free, you actually have given away so much information about yourself that now marketers, entertainment companies, media companies can go, okay, if I put this message in front of this person based on what they have liked and interacted with, I know that they're going to believe that they need this product. And that's where it's like, okay, you got to peel it back. Because like what you said, but you look at something and you don't know that there's any other choice. And what I thought of immediately with the image in my head is like how women are marketed to, like what products we need to look sexy, to be constantly.
Not talking about your period.
Yeah, not talking about your period. Like
blue liquid for period.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like that.
I could have gone red. Look, I could have. I made it very. I'm like, if I'm gonna go here, I'll at least make it blue. I won't make it red. Anyhow, because I had red food coloring.
Of course, you had it. You were. I
wasn't gonna be that manipulative. I made a choice.
But that's a great example. Yeah. Media advertisers, they're the ones who started the blue liquid thing.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, I remember. I'm having this flashback to
the
like
pads
the old pad
with the blue liquid.
Even the baby.
Oh, how
baby,
absorbent.
Yeah, right. Even baby diapers. This is hilarious.
So funny. No, you touched on a very. It's a personal, deep. This is a foundation of why I'm doing what I'm doing with my life now. I worked at big agencies. I worked at Chiat, I worked at Deutsch.
Yeah.
That was where I thought I belonged. That was my place, working on these big brands. And around the election, I came to this just visceral realization. It was my whole body. And it was like the Women's March and all of these things just were coming together, and experiential marketing and all this stuff was just like, it was computing. Yeah. And I just burst. And I was just like, what we see on our news, what we're seeing on our news is a result. The reason why it feels fake is because it's a result of what advertisers are going to sponsor, and they need the ratings. Yeah. So of course everything is up here, because it feels like watching CNN. I'm like, we are in the Truman Show. Yeah. This looks like a joke. Is this real? The way that they're presenting the news, like we're watching a football game. Yeah. And the reason for that, the news has to compete with your phone. It has to compete with the internet.
The dancing panda video.
Exactly. And the stuff that people want to see. So you have to be like, it's so important. The world, it's crumbling.
Breaking news.
Breaking news. Ivanka got a haircut. And you're like, I don't care. I don't care. The things that I don't need to care about. You talk about the earned media value that Trump got through the election process just from being gosh darn crazy. Yeah. And he is, and this is where influence is dangerous, he knows how to use it.
Totally. And you think, I'm sure some people are watching, they're like, oh, it's not that bad. Honestly, if you slow down, even just one well-placed word within a sentence can change how you feel about something. And if you pay attention and watch 3 different news sources, flip back and forth between CNN, local ABC, and Fox News, and just look for these well-placed words. And if you have some awareness about how you feel, and what you believe, watch your body, watch your thoughts, your feelings react to like, ooh, that didn't feel so good. Yeah,
Exactly.
it was a word that they did a lot of research on, even the word probably, is putting like doubt, where someone hasn't been accused of something, but it's these things that are well placed that are leading to something. In our world and marketing statistics and stuff, we talk about impressions, and it takes like a consumer like 7 times to be exposed to something to go, oh yeah, I know that car company is associated with, they love their dogs, or whatever. If I'm a dog lover, I need to buy this car. Yeah. Lots of the stuff now, and everybody's using it. Media, entertainment, advertising, they're all using the same symptoms, that sounds funny, same systems, maybe symptoms, to get a certain reaction, to get the view count, to get the sales, and it's very well researched, well placed information. And I had the same, this is why we're sitting here today, I had the same, agency background, like good at what I do, loved it, loved marketing, and it had the same sort of wake up, like I can't, I care about being authentic. I care about people having authentic experiences, and I don't want to poo-poo anything. I'm not here to say technology sucks or any of this stuff is totally bad. I'm just saying, to have your best experience, to live your best life, you have a role in it. You have a role in what you let come into your life and what you put out.
Yes.
And
an interesting thing too is just how, you and I both have this similar experience, the choice we've made to spend our time not doing what we were doing. That choice, my time is my most valuable. Unfortunately, I feel like my time is undervalued by society at this point in time.
Me too. Me too. Can we start a campaign about that?
It's too complicated to get into now, but there's a project that I worked on that was very much centered in the entirety of it. It was an alternative currency that's based on the value of your time. And it's been around for a long time, and it was an app, and I was working on this thing, and I was like, it really got me to think about my hours, my minutes, my moments, and how physically showing up with your body in one place versus another, it just makes such a big difference. Yeah. And I think we're fortunate to live at a time where it's possible to use that to our advantage and build new, build fresh.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this conversation we had yesterday in this space, like I had an accident last month. I hit my head. I woke up on my loft floor bleeding in a pile of my own blood, and I'm still dealing with that. I'm still having migraines and things, but the wake up call was the first thing that I thought of. I'm not lying. Like the first thing I thought of was work obligation. Oh, I better cancel that thing that I'm supposed to do next week, or I better let them know that I can't do this. And it didn't in that moment hit me how messed up that was, but I'm starting to deal with this, and I'm feeling myself just constantly in implementation mode, and being really judgmental on myself for not getting as much of that to-do list done, or constantly thinking about it. I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like if I was allowed to be, I am 100% certain that every client, every person in my life would benefit more from that than me just doing all the time. Yeah. Because I've stripped my own humanity out. I'm about to cry. But, that's messed up. Sister. That's messed up. And, that is a big part of, our American culture. Like other countries give the whole summer off to workers, and we're just like work. And I question now, and it will be interesting to see myself shift out of this, but like, is the quality of all that great? Like if I'm constantly doing and not being, like really is that great?
No. Yeah. Less but better. Quality over quantity, always.
I agree.
Always. And that's one of the things when you, again, talking about media, I think one of the things that's really interesting from an influence standpoint, and thank you for sharing that, by the way. I mean, it's something that we all deal with, and it's so programmed. It's your programming. You're conditioned to be like everybody else. I have to please everybody else. And you're like, no, be you. The best thing you can do on this planet, the best thing you can do with this life is to be yourself, to figure out what your purpose is here, and to live it as authentically as possible. And you get it done. Like it gets done. Yeah. It gets done. And that drive is innate. It's not going to go away. And so just to let it drive you. Yeah. And not worry about it, because how many years have you been this way? You're going to be fine.
Yeah, I know.
You're going to be fine. It's second nature now.
Yeah, I was raised in the Midwest. One of the biggest compliments you can pay to another Midwesterner is you're a hard worker.
Yeah.
You know, like we have great work mentality. We show up on time. We honor our word. Like all this stuff. Love it. I love that I was raised this way. Now I'm just at now post head injury. It's like, okay, I can work with that better. And I know I'm just teetering on this. Like I know there's more that I can do that everybody benefits, including myself. And this was another thing that I learned last year. My big moment was, and you're gonna like this one too. You know, as a person that creates experience for other people, oftentimes you're the last one that gets to have that experience, and you're tired, and you're like, yeah, right. Preaching to the choir. Yeah. And I had a situation on a video shoot where I was dealing with a really difficult person, and you know, longer story to this, but this person, he basically was the director of video photography, the VP, or the DPs rather, the director of photography, and we were taking, and I'm on camera. Okay, so I created this whole, you know, managed this whole shoot, but I'm on camera, and he's behind the camera. Art directed me in a way that would make his job as the editor much easier. So we would get like 3/4 of a shot, and maybe like the call to action wasn't great, you know? That end statement, if you don't know what a call to action is, like that, like, hey, the takeaway. And so everybody else on the team would go, we'll do just that part over again. And he'd go, do it all over again. And I'd be like, I'm exhausted, you know? And so what I realized, and then, you know, in the end, I was like, I'll be damned if I give you the editing on this. Like, that was a horrible experience. And then he was a real asshole to me about it. And telling me, you're a fake, you don't know anything about relationship. It was just hilarious. It was so violent, the whole exchange, okay? But good for me, because I learned from it. And
this is what you don't, this is what not to do. This is the wrong approach. Wrong approach to life.
Wrong approach. But in the end, so what I learned when I walked away from was like, you know what, my experience matters too. And if I allow my experience to be good, like I'll still do all of that. I'll still make a great experience for everybody. And that day I was worried about everybody else's experience. And but the quality of all that would have been so much better if I had put my own first. And I don't have to be a jerk about it. Yeah. I don't have to be selfish about it. I just have to remind myself that my experience matters too, and it gets better. Like, but often,
it's very interesting. It's a very interesting conundrum, and I think it's very common, not just for people who do what we do, but I think women a lot of the time do that. I think there's a tendency to put yourself last, and then to devalue yourself in a way that you don't feel like you deserve to be treated well.
But it's a sustainability issue. Yes. Like you cannot sustain your own energy by constantly pouring it out.
No, you have to give, you have to enable yourself to receive. It's a giving and receiving, and that has to be in balance. And it's amazing when you open yourself up to that, how many people do want to create and share and work together. And it's about, you know, being mindful and choiceful about who you let into your life. And this guy sounds like a big jerk.
He was such a jerk. I wish I could say his name, but you know who you are. You were a jerk.
You're a jerk.
You're a jerk. You were a jerk. But you know what? You were an important jerk in my life because I made changes because of that.
There you go.
That's how I look at it. You don't get the credit for my changes, but like you got to be a part of like my bigger universe is looking out for me, and like so and so you were the little pain. You were like the little pebble in my shoe that forced me to grow and take the pebble out, you know, and that's often what growth is. It's like, yes, you're going to have a little pain. It's like you're growing, it hurts. But, you know, the faster you kind of look at it and go, okay, I can do something with that. Like, I'm not going to sit and dwell on this. Yeah. I'll work with that.
What is it for the strong, you know, it's a hurdle is a stepping stone or something to that effect.
Totally. All right. So We talked about media.
We're going all over the place.
We could go on about this, but let's bring it home in a personal level.
Yeah.
I really like the statement that Tim Ferriss has used it, but I think John Rohn was the first one to say it. He's a businessman, that you're the average of the top 5 people you spend the most time with. You agree with that?
I think it's a powerful statement. I think it is largely true. But again, I mean, it also comes down to you.
Yeah.
It comes down to you. It comes down to, yeah, I certainly have adopted a lot of things from those people, but it's all, I mean, and it's also media, it's also all of these other things. But when it comes to who has the greatest influence on you and your behavior and your values and how you move through the world, I absolutely do feel that the people who are closest to you, your immediate it's you and your immediate circle, and that's what matters.
Yeah.
That's what should matter. And I think in the best cases, you're very choiceful about those 5 people, and that is a great life.
Yeah, yeah.
But
make it count.
Yes.
I mean, that's I agree with that. Like, you know, we are around people. Like, we live in a downtown area. We have lots of neighbors, you know, close to us. You know, you get to pick which people you're going to spend time with, and I think it's only in your best interest if you be a little bit strategic about that, or just think about it. So, little examples. Let's try to come up with a couple here, but like, first one that comes to mind, like, if you want to be in a healthy relationship, and everybody around you is complaining, and you know, everybody sucks, or is like poo-pooing the opposite sex, or you know what, you're probably not going to find a healthy relationship. But if you go out and actually seek somebody that is maybe your mentor in this area, and talk to them, like, you know, what are the things that you did, and you know, how do you stay in a healthy relationship, you'll start to experience it too, and it will come into your life. So relationships, I think, is a good one. Like, what's another like area that we can be influenced by, that it's
work. I mean, work.
Yeah.
Think about your team, your environment on a team, at your job, that you're, especially if you have a more traditional job where you're going 9 to 5 every day and you're working with the same people. Oh my goodness, how much every business, it's its own portal, it's its own universe, and it's weird. It's weird once you've been around the block a little bit and, you know, flirted with a bunch of different offices and opportunities. You're like, there are certain things that remain the same, but the thing that is the most important, like leadership at your company, leadership at your company, and them having the employee's best interest at heart, that is always the most impactful thing. Always.
If you're in a culture now, and we've experienced it with some of the brands that we worked with, if you're in a culture now and they say things like, this is just the way it is here, and you don't like the way that it is, I'm telling you, it's not the way that it is in most other places. Like, I have friends that work in very corporate environments, and you know, for a long time. I've been, you know, I've had my own company since 2009, and I had another one before that, you know, where my experience is completely different than their experience. Again, it's about context and circumstances, and if you think, well, this is the way that it has to be, and you don't like it, it doesn't have to be that way.
You know, I had a boss once. It was one of those things, and it was one of those like those microaggressions, and it just, you know, the team was so toxic. I hated being on that team. I loved the people I was on the team with. I was on the team with a lot of great girls, which is not a surprise because it was led by a man. Anyway, but I was on this team with so many great women, and we had, you know, such great relationships. I tried to speak my opinion. I was an account executive at the time. And I was very careful about the words I chose. I tried very hard. I had people read the email that I was going to say. Like, I tried to do it right. I tried to be respectful. I got pulled into like the head boss on this big piece of business in his office, and I'll just never forget how he looked at me and was like, you're an account executive, your job is to execute, it's not to think.
Wow.
Like, that is not your place. You think, like, people think I'm chill, I'm not chill. Your job is to execute and leave the thinking to the big boys.
Wow. How fast did you get out of there?
Oh, it was. I mean, I stayed at
At least
the
you didn't say
agency.
Your job is to look pretty, dear.
I mean, that's essentially, it's that mentality.
Yeah.
It's that mentality, and it's one of those.
Well, it's a black-white analogy too.
Exactly.
This or that. You can't do both.
And how dare you? I am a human being. How dare you tell me not to think? How dare you? How dare you? It is unacceptable. And it was one of those moments, and I'm glad, but I'm glad, I'm grateful for that experience, and I'm grateful for that opportunity, because I got to see, it's like you get comfortable in an environment, you start to poke around, and then you see what'll make somebody, how far you can push it, how far you can push before you get someone to be like, and you're like, okay, fine. I'm gonna go do something else now, I guess.
Yeah.
You're lost, bro.
And that's
I work really hard.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. All right.
So it's just an interesting, I think work relationships, bosses, co-workers, colleagues, that's huge.
Work, so we talked about work, or where influences show up in our personal life, so work, relationships. I think the third big thing would be health. Mm-hmm. So if you're trying to lose weight, or you don't eat healthy, mm-hmm. and all of your friends are like eating, fast dine every night, try to find somebody, try to bring somebody else into your life. I'm never ever, God, I hope nobody ever hears me advocate for people are disposable, like, oh, just get rid of those people. I am not saying that. I'm just saying choose where you spend your time. If there are things that are important to you, and everybody around you can't support that, find somebody that can. Yep. Find somebody that can be your cheerleader. Those people that are doing the things that you don't want to do, that are still your friends, they might be the one that like reminds you, they're there for a reason. They're important too. Mm-hmm. Don't get rid of them. I hate people thinking, oh, I'm done with these people. Like, mm-hmm. But they might be the reminder of like, okay, remember I wanted this change. Yeah. But for sure, your health, like if your relationship with your health is impacted by the people around you. Yes. If nobody's exercising, it's not,
And if you're, people are also threatened by change. Yeah. So things, especially in established groups, and that's been something I've been very challenged by the past 2 years. You start to make these changes that are positive for you, people become threatened by it, and they project it as worry or concern or just mean judgment.
Yeah.
I'm worried about you. You're like, why? Because I'm
growing.
Oh, does this make you uncomfortable? I'm not. And that's one of those areas where, and it's been. I mean, it's been a really rough experience. It's been really rough because I love people. I love my relationships. My personal Instagram handle is "and I will always love you" because it's Andy and I. Lots of eyes. Anyway, it's it's like that's like me. I'm like I have nothing but love for the people who've touched me, who've shaped me, who've been part of my life. But it's been, sometimes you just have. It's like if you release it, you have to let it go. If it comes back, it was meant to be. Totally. If it doesn't, it wasn't. And it is heartbreaking, but you grow from that heartbreak. And you only got one life to live. You have to make the choices that are the right choices for you, and you are the only one who can control that.
Yeah, I felt that. I mean, I would add to that is, I'm really, really convinced at this point in my life, I think I'm a little older than you, I'm 45. That's not something we admit in LA, but I'm gonna do it because I talked about my period this morning, like whatever. The one thing that I'm certain about is the more authentic you live your life, the happier that you are. And that doesn't come easy for everybody. Like, we've been conditioned by our family, by the jobs that we've made, by the choices that we've made. And, you know, when you start to kind of get into this pattern of growth, and why wouldn't you? Because we're here to do something. I mean, why wouldn't you kind of continue to evolve and improve and learn? You will go through periods of time that are isolating because not everybody moves with you. But as you go through a couple of those, like, you don't think about that so much, and new people come into your life, and then you have this new foundation of authenticity that kind of, you know, oversees all of that anyways. Like, it's not like you have your own source, and that's really what all of this, and I think the show, you know, really what we focus on the most is, like, once you have your own source of authenticity, your own source of self-love, all of these things become much easier. Like, everything that we deal with in life, if you can approach it from your own source, your own point of view, like, it's actually quite joyful and happy and loving, and people want that, and they come in whether you like it or not. They'll find you. Like, your good people find you.
Yes.
So
you become a light, you become a beacon, you become an example, and it's so worth it. It's so worth it. And I can say I'm battle worn, and it's worth it.
Yeah, beautiful scars.
Yes.
I like to call them beautiful scars.
Yeah,
not anything else.
Yeah, it's what I think. It's like the first phase of your life. First phase of your life is that it's being conditioned, it's being trained, it's being, like, prepared for the world in the way that the world is, and then you're like, oh. That's what becoming an adult is about. Totally. It's about I mean, ideally, it's about self-actualizing if you have the opportunity to do so. Like, let's go for it.
I agree. I think your 20s are like, yeah, I know everything. Like, your 30s are like, oh shit, I didn't know anything. And you spend that kind of, like, unlearning or learning new things. And your 40s like, oh, I kind of got this.
Yeah.
Like, and then I can be more real with myself. I can be playful with my vulnerability. I'm enjoying myself. I'm, like, learning more, and I hope that it just gets better from there. Yeah, 40s are pretty awesome.
What a relief. Yeah. Oh, bring on the age. Right. Bring it on. I'm ready. Like, stack it up. I can't wait every day, every week, every month, every year. The bad is the good. It's all worth it. Like,
totally.
Life is beautiful.
100% agree. Well, that's a great place to end and segue into Heartswell, because talk about where life is beautiful. I mean, the ability to gift somebody with, hey, I appreciate you, you've showed up in my life, and you mean something, and your words and your time and your actions, they all mean something. Like, I just don't think there's anything better, and yet it seems to be the hardest thing that we do. Like, we don't take the time to, like, call somebody and say, like, hey, you mean a lot to me. I hope by asking each guest to do a Heartswell that people watch the show and say, I'm going to do that today. I'm going to call somebody and do that. And it's a gift for both people. I mean, it's a gift for the giver to share something meaningful to somebody, and it's definitely a gift for the receiver. Yeah. So are you into giving one today?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Do you have somebody in mind?
I do. All right. I do. And I'm just going to swell about it.
Yeah, go for it. That's what it's there for.
That's what it's there for. I'm swelling right now for my sister. I've just spent the past month living with her. She gave me an opportunity to get out of town, to take a break. She gave me guidance and support in the creative process and confidence, and she helped guide me through a very difficult time, and I'm so grateful for that relationship with a beautiful woman who's ballsy and weird and fashionable and cool, and my best friend. And I'm so lucky that I got to be born with you. Allie, I love you. Thank you for being my guiding light.
That's awesome. Sister Heartswell.
Sister Heartswell.
She's got a little bit of tears in her eyes, guys. I can see it. And I'm feeling it too, because I'm emotional today.
It comes with the territory.
It's good, though.
Hey, a little sash.
Yeah, I know. I
got my sash on. It's okay. It's okay.
No, that's awesome. Your sister sounds pretty amazing.
She's magnificent. I mean, she's a badass. She is an actor.
Uh-huh.
She's an actor. She went to, she's always been an actor. And then, she came out to LA. She started writing. Like, she started doing comedy. She started writing for herself. Now she has, like, shows in development. She's doing so much incredible work. She's just on this movie, which is why we were in Atlanta.
Nice.
And she's just, she is somebody who has taken the bull by the horns and created her own space. And she didn't wait for it to be done for her.
Yeah.
And I'm like, thanks for showing me that that's possible.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So cool. So cool.
That's awesome. Well, with that, we're at the end of the show.
Right.
We've got through it. Goes by fast.
It goes by fast. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, totally. We got to have you back. I know that there's other things we can talk about. So
forever.
But there's one last thing we get to do together is just come up with something like a social challenge of the week based on what we talked about. I'm kind of leaned into this influence exploration. So if there are people watching or are listening that have never really thought about what influences them, I encourage a little, discovery and exploration on that.
I like that.
There's the first way that kind of comes to my mind. If you're using social media and you're on there quite a bit, whatever, pick your passion, if it's Instagram or Facebook, but to really slow down, just like cautiously slow down how fast you're scrolling or swiping or whatever it is, and do a check-in, like, how am I influenced by this? And then maybe go into a series of, what's my favorite type of question, guys? Why questions, so how am I being influenced by this? Why? Why is it affecting me this way? Why do I feel this way, And then make some decisions about maybe filtering out some stuff, maybe once you have gone through these why questions, like, well, what kinds of things do I want to see more in my feed?
Exactly. It's interesting. I've just gone through this process with social media where I've been really slow on I'm like, how do I want to establish my social presence for my business? And I'm really holding back right now because I want to make sure that everything that does go up is aligned with my, purpose and integrity, and just, I want to hit that tone anyway. But I have a business account, and one of the things that I've been doing that's been so helpful on Instagram, and I love Instagram. I think it's fascinating, and this is part of why I love it so much. I have this new account. I unfollowed everybody I know, and then I just started following things that I want to aspire to be like.
Yeah.
So, and just saving a lot of things and making collections of different art and a lot of like animation, like beautiful animation. Yeah. Really visually appealing, and you're like, ooh, and you can, if that's fashion for you, if that's funny stuff for you, whatever that is, like it's like aspiration, like you can go down a rabbit hole on social media that is nothing but joy, that is nothing but like beautiful things, and that's an opportunity for you too. So if that's something that sounds like you can do, if you want to start a separate account. I know, another thing my sister did, she's like, I had a separate account that I just followed all fashion people. And you're like, why not? If that's something that you love and you want a special place that's just for that, go for it. I like
that, because then you can dedicate time just for that. Like, I'm in a fashion mood, and and just do that, because part of the problem is if you get too much in there, it's like, oh, I didn't really need to see that right now. Stuff sneaks in, you're like, oh, that just launched a little grenade in my head, and I didn't want to deal with it.
It's fun though, because when you do that and you start to follow all these people, then you start to get targeted for the good stuff. Yeah. So when you go to the stuff you might like page, you're like,
oh, I like that.
Awooga, you're like, it's great. It's great. It's fascinating. It's interesting. It's so much fun. And then you get to find, it's been a fun discovery process, for clients too. Yeah. It's great. It's great. So fun challenge. If you want to take it one step further, definitely be more mindful about who's in your feed. Another challenge for that, not only why, I think another question after why, the second one is why not? Like, I don't like this. Why are you following them? Why do you not unfollow them? Like, just don't do it. Don't do it. It's not worth your mental space. You only have so much capacity.
Totally. All right. Well, that's the social challenge of the week. Andi, you're going to learn all. We'll put all of her links in the archive of the show. Her website is artfulinfluence.co, and she's right now. It's very raw right now because she's in the building stages, but you know, I'm really excited to see what you end up putting on there because I know it will be really thoughtful and pretty amazing. But I am watching your Instagram. She's got some really cute animations and drawings on there, so I'm enjoying that. But we'll share all of that. I really, really appreciate you being here. This was a good conversation. I'm feeling this. This is exactly the kind of space that I needed to be in today. Good. So thank you for that. That was a gift. And yeah, and if you do take the social challenge, I'll make sure that people have your social media in mind, so you can say, "Hey, I did it. Let me." I always love hearing about that. Like
absolutely,
what your takeaways for the show. So always reach out. I'm at Love More Now on Twitter and Relate with Steph on Instagram. And just a little note about the next show. So I'm going to be sitting down with a new friend, Alma, who is a medium, and we're going to actually be talking about, I know, fun, how we all can actually have that mystical power, and it's something that we practice in public shared experience. So I'm really looking forward to this show as well. It's going to be fun. Who knows what's going to come up and what presence will be in the room on the show. Yeah, I love it. I wish people could feel how I feel sometimes. Like
I know.
Goosebumps and like smell everything.
Any empath, any sensitive, highly sensitive people.
Yeah,
you get it.
Awesome.
You get it.
Yeah, totally. So look for the archive on stephaniemichelle.com, and as always, relate with more curiosity. Go do it. See you next week.
Bye.